Hello, today I'm going to be talking about whether it's okay to watch porn without masturbating. So I've actually done this a few times in the past, and I can tell you firsthand that the consequences are incredibly similar to watching porn and also masturbating and having the orgasm, right? I think what's happened is due to the nofap and semen retention online subcultures, people have started to believe that their main problem is the actual release, the orgasm, because obviously you sort of have that post-nut clarity where you feel really, really shit when you've actually released and ejaculated. So you feel really, really shit in that moment. And so then people will correlate, okay, well, that's the problem. It's the actual ejaculation and orgasm, which is the issue. But from my experience anyway, and that of clients, the issue really is actually engaging in compulsivity. And this is why within the Beyond Compulsion Academy, we don't really train people on how to stop ejaculating and, retain their semen or do a nofap streak. Like, if anything, it's the opposite of that. Instead, what we train people on is how do you remain in control of your actions moment by moment, weigh up your choices, think in rational ways, and deal with compulsive desires. Because when you're changing your neural pathways and, what does that even mean? Well, basically, like, if your brain is wired to have certain desires for certain things because you've engaged in those things in the past a lot of times, you then have these desires and you're going to want to engage in certain things, whether it's, playing video games, scrolling on social media, eating an excess amount of food, watching porn, masturbating, whatever it is. So you've trained your brain basically to have desires for certain behaviours which are really holding you back in life, sort of taking away your time, your peace of mind, your energy, your confidence, your connection with other people. So you're starting to feel a bit shit. You want to end these behaviours, you want to stop them, but you still have these desires. So all we really focus on is how do you stop behaviours that you want to stop. It isn't really about this sort of, the actual ejaculation or semen, nofap. Like, we honestly couldn't care less about any of that shit. It's just, if you want to stop a behaviour, then we can help you do that. And you've got to first off sort of start by realising that you're going to simultaneously want to engage in that behaviour, but also want to stop that behaviour. It's what we call the constant conflict. It's the dilemma. There's these different parts in your mind where you want to do something, you also want to stop it. So once you accept all of this, and you get the right training, you build a script, you learn that it's okay to have these desires, there's nothing wrong with you for having the desires, and we can actually begin to get into that neural pathway of compulsive desire, start to think through the choice rationally, weigh up the options, experience a bit of discomfort, and actually begin to change our neural pathways. So, going back to the start of all of this, is it okay to watch porn without masturbating? Well, the honest answer to that is, do you want to stop watching porn? Like, that's the only real thing you need to weigh up here. It isn't to do with whether you masturbate as well or you don't masturbate, because if there's a behaviour in your life you want to stop, then that is the problem. That's the only problem that you really have with regards to that behaviour, is you want to stop it, okay, you're also going to want to do it. Well, how do we stop it? That's the only thing we need to solve. And it's the same with any behaviour in life. It could be the porn. You might also want to stop the masturbation. You might want to stop scrolling. You might want to stop playing video games. You might want to stop eating excess amounts of food and feeling totally full and pretty shit. So whatever behaviour you want to stop, that's the problem to solve. That's all it really is. But what will happen, and I've seen this happen, is the addictive part of the mind will interject and it will compare one compulsive behaviour to another. And it will say, okay, watching porn, that isn't that bad as long as I don't masturbate. Or it will say, oh, masturbating isn't that bad as long as it's not porn. But those sort of thoughts are just bullshit, conflated thinking based thoughts coming from the addictive part of the mind. And really, they need to be dealt with very, very proactively, because engaging in one behaviour that isn't as bad as another behaviour doesn't make engaging in that behaviour any better. It's so independent of everything else. It's just, do you want to stop it or not? And it's up to you to decide whether you want to stop a behaviour or not. I'm not going to be here to tell people you should stop masturbating or tell you should stop porn. If there's a behaviour in your life and you're experiencing quite bad consequences from engaging in it and you want to stop it, great, we can help you with that. But if you don't want to stop it, then crack on, it's not a problem. But the thing to watch out for is the conflated thinking, where you start comparing one to another. And I did this for years and years and years, where I tell myself like, oh, it's fine to scroll on social media because this isn't porn. And then it was like, oh, it's fine to look at Instagram models because at least it's not porn. And then it's like, oh, it's fine to masturbate as long as it's not porn, or vice versa. And like, I would just basically be engaging in compulsive behaviours like all the time, really. And I didn't even have the awareness to realise that that was a problem, because I'd almost always be comparing it to a different behaviour and going, well, at least it's not as bad as this. But it's like, well, yeah, I still wanted to stop the scrolling. So it's like, that's the problem to solve. It isn't about whether you want to also stop porn and masturbation. That's completely irrelevant in that moment you have the compulsive desire to scroll. Hopefully that makes some sense. It's a very, very sneaky tactic from the addictive part of the mind. As I always say, there are these different parts in our mind. You have the addictive part of the mind, the rational part of the mind, the child self. If you'd like to learn a bit more about the Beyond Compulsion method, then go and click the link below where you can get a video on a little bit about, the compulsive desire side of things and how that's like the real problem. It's not like that long a video. I think it's maybe like 9 or 10 minutes. I can't really remember. But yeah, it's a good place to start. So yeah, go click on that link, get that free training video, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.